Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. My name is Sean.
I'm Long John Silver.
And I'm Ray.
And guys, help me. Is this Sticks and Stones or Elements of Horror?
Sticks and
It's
stones.
sticks and stones.
I'm sorry. I have painted myself into a sub-branding corner. So this is a new episode of Sticks and Stones, which is our folk horror discussion. I've wanted to cover this movie forever. This is Neil Jordan's 1984 The Company of Wolves. And Ray, talk about why you picked this.
Well, um, part of I guess it goes back to the question we ask every episode of Sticks and Stones, which is this folklore? And I say it definitely is. Um, it's part of the rich tradition of oral history of oral stories, and it's tied very much to fairy tales. In fact, the first time I saw the movie, I was taking a college course in fairy tales and children's literature, particularly, but we were covering fairy tales. And professor showed this film, and some people were kind of like, "Wow, this is a horror movie. Why are we watching this?" And he goes, "Well, look at how it interprets fairy tales." And like the thing was is that we didn't just read the straightaway versions of the fairy tales or the Brothers Grimm, as most people know. Like we read in that course a version of Cinderella called Aschenputtel, which is a German version, where at the end she watches her Cinderella or that main character watches the evil stepsisters mutilate their feet to try and fit into the shoes, and she kind of like enjoys watching them mutilate themselves.
No, this is
So
like the ugly stepsister version that Shudder did earlier
yes,
this year.
yes, and the thing is that like those the reason that there are so many versions of these fairy tales is because they were passed down as part of an oral history, and like all of them have this thing of like being part of the cultures, part of warnings to young people, and especially this film. Like it has all of these stories of this young girl of the young girl taking heed of what adulthood is like. Some of it is what men are like, some of it is like what adulthood and the pitfalls of it are. But all of it concerns like you're transitioning from being a girl into being a woman. And when you become a woman, there's going to be things you better watch out for. And um, the wolves and the werewolves are metaphors for different things. Like there's a lot of it is men and how men treat women.
Men with unibrows.
Well, the grandmother does make that distinction, yes, that like men with unibrows are to be not trusted, to be thought of as like they are they are closer to their animal natures
Yeah.
than other men are, so therefore are going to do what they want, which is kind of metaphorically and physically and sexually consume women.
Yeah.
Um, like they're like another kind of part of the reason that we saw this in that course was there's I can't remember the name of it, but there is a French version of Little Red Riding Hood where um when she meets the wolf and it has eaten the grandmother, like when he says to her like well, what better, what better way to see you, what like, oh, what big teeth you have, what better he literally says, what better way to eat you, and it has the sexual overtones of like others do not. um and that warning of like you're going to be a woman, you're going to go out into the world, and men are going to be as innocent as that young boy and want to court you and walk with you through forests and maybe just want to kiss, or they're going to want more.
Right.
um and like even the story where the woman turns the people into werewolves is a warning, because she's there because this wealth
She
this
got fucked over by a man.
Yeah, because the man has like he probably told her he loved her and all these other things. He left her knocked up, and she showed up and went, "Okay, well, I'll turn you into the animal you are, you and all your friends." Um, and then I'm gonna enjoy hearing your song every night as I, as I raise our child. Um, and because of that, it's part of that. It's part of a rich history of like I could just tell you to be careful of this. I could just tell you, like, watch out for these kind of people, watch out for men, watch out for this. But instead, I'll just make this story, and this story will be a metaphor for how bad things can be.
Yeah.
Plus, I think it kind of like is part of um that history of like I'm gonna take it to an extreme. Like if you just tell somebody like you're gonna meet a man and he's gonna use you sexually and he's gonna leave you all alone to raise your child by yourself, that's that's not as bad as you're gonna meet a man and he's going to take advantage of you and then he's gonna eat you. Like that's pretty, take it to the nth degree, but it's a scare tactic. And um fairy tales spring from that concept of like I'm gonna take it as hard as and
Yeah.
far as I have to kind of drum into you like be careful out in the world. um but fairy tales do use magical creatures, and in this case it's werewolves,
Well,
so
and
that's
and fairy tales are folklore, and
oh
folklore
absolutely.
folklore is, part of folklore is we've talked about like you don't go back and all these things about, the past intruding on the present, blah blah blah. But also, it's folklore is a way to pass down knowledge in story form,
Yeah,
right? Because it
absolutely.
sticks better than just like, oh, hey, eat your oatmeal, or if you have Robert Loggia show up and be like, hey, there's a wolf, he says eat your oatmeal, that was a terrible example. I
I like
plucked
the
oatmeal
idea.
from my I plucked oatmeal from my subconscious, and Robert Loggia followed. And it's not Robert Loggia; it's Wilford Brimley. Robert Loggia was
Wow.
orange juice. Anyway, John, had you seen this movie prior to this?
Yeah, not for a long time though.
So, talk about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I mean this to kind of build off of Ray's point, there was this is a reminder about, fairy tales and like what they have to teach us, and also the fact that the just like the whole concept of animation is a genre for children rather than just a storytelling medium, kind of
Mm-hmm.
applies to fairy tales as well. And this is kind of a reminder of that. And it really kind of hit home to me when I was watching it this time around. And have either of you two, do either of you two remember the TV show Jim Henson's The Storyteller?
I remember
Yes.
it in theory, but I don't remember specifics at all.
Yeah, I was watching this and I was thinking, I'm like, oh my God, this is like, it's like I feel like I'm watching an adult version of Jim Henson's The Storyteller.
Oh,
And because it has like all of these kind of elements of like where it's like the creatures, they do feel very Jim
yeah.
Henson-esque, like apart from, the actual like sheep dogs that have been spray painted to look like wolves in certain parts.
They're
But
so clearly dogs, but it
yeah.
I
doesn't
know they're
matter.
so
It doesn't
clearly
matter.
dogs at some points, and I'm like, damn, why are they dogs? Shit.
I have heard wolves can be very difficult to work with from like animal trainers, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's like when you look past that, it's like I'm seeing like a lot of um Guillermo, not just Guillermo del Toro vibes from this, but I'm also getting more specifically than that, Luis Buñuel vibes. Like
Oh,
almost so much that there's two films, and I get them. There's The Company of Wolves and The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, and for some reason I get them mixed up in my head sometimes. And then I when I watched this film, I was like, that's why.
Oh,
Because this
interesting.
is like the realm of like fairy tales for adults that Louis Buñuel dealt with, and Guillermo del Toro picked up that torch like nobody's business. And the and it's a film where and I haven't gone back to the well very often with this film. It's not that I dislike it. I do think I like Neil Jordan. I do think his masterpiece clearly is Interview with the Vampire. Um, and and I love, of course, Stephen Rea in this film. Just sort of
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah,
long
he's
time.
great.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Long time Neil Jordan collaborator, Stephen Rea. Uh, and I had completely forgotten that Satan is played by the
Terrence
late
Stamp,
Terrence Stamp. Yeah, the late great
timely because
Terrence
he
Stamp.
just passed away.
I
Yeah, so
forgot
rip.
about that scene too, but that's a
Yeah,
fantastic scene in the movie, isn't it? God
it really
damn, I
is.
love that.
And
It,
he's riding around in a Rolls Royce too, which is
Yeah.
one very British, and two it's just such a good choice. Um, this film is also, yeah, very British. It also reminded me a lot of sort of old kind of British heritage films that I would see, like, on PBS as a kid.
yes, I've never heard that term before, but I know exactly what you mean when you say you would
I
see
know
them
what you
on
mean
PBS.
too.
I'm there. I'm like, yes, absolutely. It has that. Some people now would say it's like stuffy British, but I don't think it's stuffy at all. It's
Like
just,
Downton Abbey is a heritage show and
yeah,
a
it's a
heritage
modern
film,
heritage show.
but
Yeah,
but then by the time that rolled around, the television, on both sides of the Atlantic had evolved to a point where they had big budgets and can afford to
yeah,
be much more cinematic,
cinematic.
and
Yep.
yeah, and not everything ended up, sort of looking kind of like a soap opera, or like, the old Sherlock Holmes with Jeremy Brett, or
Yeah.
Poirot, or any of that kind of stuff.
Uh, oh wow, I love that you said that. I knew like that was a piece that I had n not quite filled in. Like it was there in my head, but I hadn't like put a name on it yet. But that's exactly this film. Uh, I I don't. So my first awareness of this film in 1984, I would have been 8, and I saw the Siskel and Ebert, which I looked for
Oh.
on YouTube, and I could not find.
I
Mm.
saw the
And it bought.
Ebert.
I saw the Ebert, but I couldn't like. I know Siskel and Ebert covered it because, this is a bold horror statement. To this day, I will still put the transformation sequence in this over American Werewolf in London. Not that American Werewolf in London is not a outstanding, outstanding transformation sequence. I'm not a big fan of the movie. It's fine. I don't not like it, but I just don't go gaga for it the way other people do.
What
It's
about the Howling?
I love The Howling. The Howling feels like a Cronenberg movie. It's like if Cronenberg
Yes.
did a werewolf movie. Um,
Which
but this
transformation?
Yeah, I was
The
curious
the
what your
the
favorite
fucking
flat.
transformations are.
the snout
Oh,
out
the
of the
snout.
mouth
Okay.
is
Yeah.
just so that was the clip they showed on Siskel and Ebert,
Ah.
and it's like as an 8-year-old, I just remember being like, what in because I knew what a werewolf was, right? I had seen Lon Chaney do the transformation many times. It's like you
Yeah.
do the fucking time lapse on his face, and here this dude is like got a mouth coming out of his mouth. I mean, and I watch it now. And last year, this was on Shutter TV at like 3 in the morning every day because Shutter TV it's like they get into a programming loop and it's just the same thing every day. And I had a period where I had trouble sleeping, so I'd go to bed and I'd wake up at the same time, and I'd come upstairs to my office because I got a pull-out bed and I don't have to keep Kirsten awake by tossing and turning. And I don't even know how many times I would just come up here, put that on, and it would be on, and I would just watch it from some point. So last year I saw this movie multiple, like, 5, 6, 7 times, but from different points. And then rewatching it now, I was just reminded that first impact of the transformation, but also this movie paved the way for me to love Suspiria because this was the first movie I saw where I'm like, this looks like a fairy tale. And when I saw Suspiria the first time,
Yeah.
I was like, this also looks like a fairy, and
Yeah.
so I was obsessed with that for a while where I'm like, oh my, this is like one of the first DVDs I bought. It's a crappy DVD. I need to get a better, like a Blu-ray, but I'm like, there's like a Jim Henson element, but also the fairy tale thing, and like, you could tell it's a set, but it doesn't matter. It's like a set that looks like a set, but it makes it look like a fairy tale because it's a set. I don't know, it's hard to explain, but oh
No,
my
I know
God.
what you mean. Like,
And even
oh
like
well,
the
that's
dogs, like it all
yeah.
just adds, it contributes.
Well, I think there's a couple of things like for one, the going back to John's comment about Terrence Stamp showing up in a Rolls Royce, like it could take you out, but it's one of the subtle moments in the film, like besides the beginning and the end of the movie, that remind you it's a little girl dreaming.
Right.
So you get that reminder, this is her inside of her dream, this is her interpreting everything. Um, so I think also though, like the like it could just be like that they were hard, like dog, like wolves are notoriously hard to work with, but we do see her dog running to kind of come to her room, and the sisters shoo him off. So she does have that tie to the dog in reality that
Oh,
we know about. Um, and I think that the fact that like it's that dream also like is easy to digest the fact that she's inside it, like it's all inside this sound stage. Um, but you're right, it does give it a fairy tale feeling to it. Like like majority of the film legend is a soundstage, but it still feels like this world, and it
yeah,
feels very
yes,
fairy tale
yes.
when you
Good
watch it, and
example.
like and you're very much like, oh, this is just like part of this whole thing, like it's a fairy tale. So it it lends itself to that. I think the format and I think the what the tone of the film is about like lends itself to that. I don't like that, actually, I forgot about that until we were watching it just the other day, and a little like I kind of finished it off today. The thing of like there's several different transformations. I like the way that there's different
Yeah.
transformations because if you go back and read um like werewolf lore like I did when I was younger, there's a lot of different like versions of like, oh well, this is there's this, like this story says like they have to like they literally like when he's pulling his like the first one when he's pulling his, or like not the first one but with Stephen Ray where he's pulling his skin off
Yeah.
and then he's going to start sprouting fur. There's stories where the character like people like find like these like human looking husks,
Yeah.
and then like the werewolf comes back to that, the wolf gets into that husk and then reforms itself into the shape of a person. So there's those stories. There's the story of like literally underneath the skin is a wolf, and like when the guy transforms at the end. Um, and depending on the story, like every like the stories will have like different elements of like this is how a werewolf looks, this is how, and then no, this is how a werewolf looks. Um, and that one story, that's an actual like I found out from rewatching it, that and I noticed that like they'd had that woman's name attached. That they're the woman who wrote the
Angela
screenplay with
Carter.
yeah, this was based off of her collection of like of stories that she'd written. Oh, you have it.
So I'd always meant to read it. I just read it.
And one of the stories in the one of her like short stories in that book is a story that gets retold a lot, again in like werewolf folklore, which is the tale of the like person coming on the road gets attacked by a large wolf. They cut the wolf's paw off, and then it turns into a hand, and they're like, "Wow, okay, I just got almost got taken out by this wolf." And then they get to their destination and find out that the person that they're coming to see who is in fact missing a hand now, and it's they were the werewolf.
Hmm.
um like I've read a version of that before where it's a man traveling, uh he's a woodsman, he's out in the woods, and he gets attacked by a large wolf. He manages to fight the wolf off, he cuts the wolf's paw off, when he gets home, his wife is missing a hand. And he realizes that his wife this whole time has been a werewolf and has been hiding it from him. There's variations on that story, but it's neat that that story appears not only in her book, but also in that little throwaway of like the father comes home and is like, I swear that was a paw of the biggest wolf you've ever seen when I
Right.
cut it off. Like there's he shoehorns into this tight 96-minute film like a lot of different like little elements of werewolf folklore, and I really enjoy that about this film. Like he really figures out a way to get a lot into a tight little 96 minutes.
Yeah, agreed. John?
Yeah. Oh God, it's almost kind of like animation was the only thing that was missing from this film.
That's a good
Um,
point.
Yeah.
yeah, I think the one thing that has never worked for me, and by all accounts, it's actually never worked for Neil Jordan as well. It was is the end, like the very, very end. Because it almost kind of feels like it doesn't. There's something that they were going for to try to deliver on one of the themes or one of the ideas, and they just didn't do it. Either they didn't have the budget to do it, or they just didn't know how, so they just kind of end things abruptly, unless I saw a version of it. I'm just sort of wondering if both of you guys felt the same way.
Well, I was going to bring the end up with Ray because the whole
Yeah.
thing that shatters the dream, that it's her dream, is the fact that she wakes up and they come for her, right, in the real world. But it also feels like I really like it because it feels
It
surreal.
seems like she's waking up inside of her own dream still, so she's not awake.
It's a little wishy-washy in the context
Yeah.
of everything they've laid out. I like it, but I'm suspicious if I like it just because I saw it so long ago and so it's familiar to me. You know what I mean? But
Mm.
I've never been able to exactly explain that.
I said when sitting here when I was sitting there watching it the other day, I completely forgot about that whole opening setup, that whole opening framing device where the parents are coming home
It's modern
and
day.
the dog, yeah, and the dog is running and she has her sister who's coming to try and wake her up and
Pest,
calling her pest.
pest.
And then and then you cut into the dream and she has her sister get murdered by wolves. And I was like, okay, because it's a little bit of sibling rivalry there, but I was like, or is that her brain? Is it sibling rivalry, or is it possibly her brain also doing like, well, she's older than me, so logically the wolves are going to go for her first because she's
You know
already
what?
that much closer to womanhood. Like, but then why does it end that? John's right. It does have a thing. Like, I didn't have a problem with it the first time I saw it, probably because I glazed over the whole um opening, like with the parents. But I was like, wait, what? Is she waking up inside of her dream? Like, is this that quality of like a character who's like, oh, I'm awake. Oh no, I'm not. I'm still in my nightmare. And like, so she's gonna wake up later, or is this like just bending into surreality and like she's like still she's not waking up and or I don't know. It's hard to figure out like what they want to do. And I think John's right. It feels like a little bit like an incomplete idea. Like, okay.
Well, and so none of that's in the short story. It's a very short story, and it has kind of the first 2 pages or so are basically just, it has the air of like a omnipotent fairy tale, but and then the only thing from the movie, it's the whole thing with like she's walking to the grandmother's with the basket of goodies, and the guy's like, oh, I have a compass, I can get there first, and then it's the wolf, blah blah blah. There
Yeah.
is a thing with the devil, but other than that, like everything else, there might be some, like they reference the goofy looking kid, but he's not in it. So it's a very stripped down version. So they had to fill it out, but I also wonder if maybe the studio had notes, and that is why there's the modern wraparound, with oh, what's his nuts? David
David
Warner. There you
Warner,
go.
he's in Tron, he's in Time After Time.
Um,
Is it time? Yeah, time.
yeah, but so John, apparently, like you mentioned, it didn't work for Neil Jordan either. So have you read something, some like supplemental stuff that talked about the making of this or his views on it?
Yeah, DVD commentary.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it
Oh.
was yeah, it was like yeah, wasn't too thrilled about it. Sort of like the original idea was just like it just almost kind of like she falls into like this other layer of dream or surrealistic departure from reality because like she falls on the floor and originally she was going to get swallowed up by it like like water and
Oh.
uh they
A
just
very
didn't
Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah pretty much yeah no good
same
call
year. That's
yeah
interesting.
yeah and they just didn't have the time or budget for it so they just sort of cut with like the toys falling on the floor and the wolves jumping in through the window and yeah that's all folks.
Well, I don't you know, that's one thing about that ending that I don't hate is the symbolic, like the
The end of childhood.
yeah, she's this little girl surrounded by her toys, and then the wolves come in and they're just knocking down these toys and destroying them. And we have that little that we have that line at the end, like it's just another like, this is the end of childhood, the transition into womanhood, and be prepared. They're coming for you. They're it's a little troublesome because it's one of those movies like oh, what's the one we watched? Tori's pick,
You're talking about Valerie.
Valerie, yeah, where we have this actress who's clearly like a little girl, and it's very much like Valerie, and you're like, these are adult men, like that traveler, the guy with the compass, who's a werewolf at the end. He is an adult man coming for her, and like it's troublesome, but like it's not inaccurate for the world we live in. And it's kind of sucky that like little girls have to be prepared for like this is the world you live in. And like honestly, unfortunately, we've learned that we have to tell little boys the same thing with everything that has happened in modern day. But I mean, it's this kind of sexualization of children, and like when they're that close to being adults, that like there's going to be adults that are going to come for them and be like, "Hey, what's going on? What are you doing later?" Like it's gross, but yeah, we have to prepare them for it. And I think that's another layer of the story, unfortunately.
I thought you were going to bring up, this is definitely like evil men kind of movie, like Beware the Evil Men. However, I have no problem with its message. Whereas
Yeah, for sure.
the movie I was thinking of that I have a problem with, that's a modern message like that, is that Lucky movie
Oh,
that we watched. And
yes, it was
that
lucky.
movie, like I take offense to that movie. I'm like, I'm sorry, ma'am. Not all men are rapists. So sorry. I don't know if that's that movie's message. That's how I took it, or at least something close to that. But this is
Yeah,
not wrong, and you're right. Like, and especially in the era that the dream takes place, like she would have been in danger, 100%.
yes,
You know what I mean?
yes.
Like they were not as tidy about, checking people's IDs. Like, if you know what I
Well,
mean.
yeah,
Like,
I mean,
uh,
yeah, no, I mean, I don't know if I've mentioned this in a podcast before, but I was rather disturbed when I found out that like my grandfather, his his mother, when his parents got married, his mother was 14 and it was arranged
oh,
marriage, and my grandfather, my great grandfather was 40 because he was a well-to-do guy. And like they had
damn.
12 children. Yeah. So, you know, unfortunately for women, like up until pretty recently, last 100 years, like being an adult woman and being like of an age for marriage was not an uncommon idea at a pretty young age. And like I don't think it's all men, because like the wolves are representatives of like those are the men to avoid, whereas like the
Yeah,
parents,
yeah,
when like the kid in the village wants to take her for a walk, the parents think of this as a good thing because
yeah,
they're like he's from the village, he's about his her age, like this is a nice little
yeah. It
courtship, she'll
works.
be of that age soon enough. So like they're like very much like yay for that, and like they want her to avoid older men because they know that they will be around and they will certainly take advantage. So um I think it portrays like a certain sect of like there's going to be men that are going to be interested in her that like have noble intentions that want to be like, I want to be your boyfriend, I want to be your husband, like we're gonna make a life in the village. And then there's other men that are gonna come along and they want more.
I mean, and
Well,
also let's
plus
face it, the
there
kid in the
is
village is
this.
just a total to do. Like
Yeah,
I mean,
he is,
the
unfortunately.
father's
He
like,
is.
thank God there's a girl that'll talk to him because
Yeah, exactly.
he's
He's a dork. I mean, in our modern times, he'd be a total dweeb. But I mean, there is also the troublesome thing of like that first story when the husband returns after disappearing for years and finds her with these children and that she's being married after her husband revives home, and she's just kind of stunned. Like I don't interpret the ending like her as being like, oh my god, that was my first husband, I'm so sad. I
no.
interpret that moment as like her just being like stunned, like oh my god, that was him. And her current husband smacks her, and I'm like, why does he do that? And apparently it's in her short story too, and it kind of stuns me and like makes me question like what the hell just happened there, that he interpreted like I need to give her a smack in the face. Like
It is actually. I forgot it is in the
it's
story,
a
but
troublesome moment.
it's not a full-fledged idea. It's mentioned, and it is kind of like he smacks her because he thinks that she's mourning, like oh, I don't
Uh,
know. John, so I don't know. Expound on these ideas.
Mm. Yeah, I think just sort of like the layering of dreams and just sort of like, the people that you're meant to beware of, on the journey, and just sort of the idea it's like, yeah, any of these people, like there's so many films that are about the face we give the world and someone's true nature underneath. This is definitely not a film that I would put in like the top 10 best of those kind of films, but it definitely does it in very, very interesting ways and that are visually stunning.
yeah.
And yeah, my favorite hands down is the wedding. I think the wedding sequence is just kind of the before I saw this film, it was in like almost every promo image that I saw of this film was from the wedding, and I
Oh,
think there's a reason for that.
So talk about the wedding. What, like, how? When did you see this movie first? Like age-wise?
14, maybe
Okay.
ooh.
13.
And
Like
is the
I definitely saw Vampire and Crying Game first.
okay, okay.
Oh.
Um, is is the wedding, so the wedding is kind of like what you expected when you went into it, and also your takeaway from like, the gap between that first viewing and whenever your next viewing was.
Yeah, completely.
So it's kind of the movie to you in a way, or at least for a period of time, that was the movie to you.
It summarized all the ideas and everything that they were getting towards, and it really kind of looked at the idea of just sort of like, okay, we div human beings are so it's a very dim view of human nature, and just sort of like how predatory people are, and this is sort of like somebody making kind of a doing sort of their own fairy tale, and like interpreting, the Carter's novel like at the really at the height of Thatcherism, and that's sort
Yeah.
of like kind of like how I'm interpreting that is like, the wolves are not, they're never literally wolves, they are people, although it's sort of like it can be a metaphor for, as you and Ray are sort of pointing out, lecherous men. But I kind of always, took a much more broad view of what they would represent. And I think the wedding is really where that kind of brings everything home.
Oh, am I understanding you correctly that the wedding is kind of like a metaphor for the Thatcher regime?
Yeah, it's sort of like gluttony and just the desire to just sort of devour everything. And like in doing so, we just devour each other. We just sort of destroy each other. It's a classic, and it has its roots in folk horror, like in that. So it
Yes.
definitely earns its sticks and stone stripes for sure. But we get this. In other horror genres, as well, like, and it finds its way into sci-fi horror where it becomes in our nature to destroy each other or at least unleash the mechanisms of our own destruction. And this is, and I think the wedding scene kind of does it. Sort of it's what takes the story a step above the uh, wolves as a metaphor for destructive interpersonal relationships.
Oh man, dude, you just totally changed my whole view of that segment and this movie. Wow. Holy shit. It's personal interpretation, but I also know you're not wrong. Like that is definitely the intent there. There's no doubt about it. Now I'm like, how did I not see that? Oh my God, that is insane.
And these are ideas that he'll come back to in The Crying Game as well. It's just sort of like, what is it's like, we're just like, it's like we've got like, factions, in Northern Ireland and everyone just sort of and people like, just willing to kill each other, over sort of territorial uh ambitions and anti-colonialist resistance. And the character Dill holds up a mirror to society. And here in the Company of Wolves, we don't see that idea fully formed, but we do see it played around with. It just sort of it goes from like when it's almost kind of like you have to think of like different layers of the dreams representing sort of different layers of like human existence and human interactions, like personal, familial, societal, and that's kind of what it builds up to. And then it just sort of comes full circle to the like, okay, where am I and what next in my life? Okay, I'm going to get devoured by wolves here.
Man. Yeah. This man, I am absolutely thrilled at this because I you just changed my whole interpretation. And I will tell you this also. I mean, maybe this is idiotic. This viewing I had, so I watched this a couple days ago. This viewing, so you just changed it, but also this viewing, and this is like, let's just say my seventh viewing of this movie in my life, um, was I had an epiphany. And it's such an obvious epiphany. I'm probably alone here. I've always interpreted the title, probably because when I first heard it as a kid with Siskel and Ebert talking about it, the Company of Wolves, the way that I interpreted that phrase was like a theater company. So like a murder of crows, like a company of wolves, right?
Mhm.
But that's not it. It's you're in the company of
Company
wolves,
of
right?
Yeah.
wolves.
And
Yeah.
that then works. So I was literally watching it a couple days ago going, oh my God, like it's so amazing. And it's one of the things I love about cinema and talking about cinema, where you can know a movie for, I mean, 1984. That's, what is that? How, like decades ago, right? And
Yeah.
I get a fresh perspective on it. I mean, that just blows my mind. But now you do it again a couple days later, and it works perfectly with the previous epiphany because, yes, like England was in the company of, I mean, we are also in the company of wolves right now. I mean, we're
Yeah.
all in the company of wolves. That's it's wow. What a, the metaphor has just eaten everything. Like,
Well, and to add to John's the concept, like it's like one of the two times that we get that comment on social strata, and like uh you have that story, and then you have the gentleman at the end that she interacts with, and when you consider that she is a child of that era and she's the one who's having the dream, it's her brain that's literally feeding her
yeah.
these morals, these concepts. um so she's of that era, she exists in that era, and she knows who she is inside of that society. So she's reconstructing everything from her own memories, from her own life. And she's put herself as this person, this commoner in a village. And then the people that are represented as wolves are the wealthy, the upper class.
And this concept and this film gets referenced in one of the lyrics of a song by a group at the drive-in. It's a song by called Invalid Litter Department, and it's about and the song is about violence, particularly violence against women in the state of Juarez, Mexico, and
I think I
it's
remember this song.
yeah, and they talk about like they mention like in the company of wolves. Oh God, I can't. It's like yeah, in the company of wolves was a stretcher made of cobblestone curfews, and the federales performed their custodial customs quite well, and they just repeat dancing on the corpse's ashes. So it's like it's almost kind of like that whole concept of like the company of behind Company of Wolves, and that just sort of whole theme kind of gets gleaned and then just sort of transported into like a completely different realm.
Oh wow. So wow. Very good pull. I haven't listened to this record in quite some time. If people don't know, this is the they would go on. Rodriguez and I forget the other gentleman are Mars Volta. That's probably where they made their
Ah,
biggest
that's
mark.
yes.
Marcelton Sparta.
Yes, yes. And Anti-Mask, I think is. I mean, so many bands. All pulses were subverted, and they made sure that the obituary showed pictures of smokestacks dancing on the corpse's ashes, a vivid dissection that mocked the strut of vivisection, a semi-automatic colony, and a silencing that still walks the streets dancing on the corpse's ashes when the company of wolves was a stretcher made of cobblestone curfews as the federales performed their custodial customs quite well. Wow, good pull. Holy shit, I have not listened to that in a while. I'm definitely adding that back to my rotation.
I am so
Wow.
impressed by how John pulled that exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I'm
Yes.
curious. So is I'm curious if the Company of Wolves is actually like a term meaning exactly what we think it means that predates the movie and the movie adopted it, or if the movie was where that term or the phrase came from. Well, the book would be where it came from, actually. The short story, which is originally published in 1979 in a magazine called Bananas, strangely enough. But it's readily available. You can get Angela Carter's The Bloody Chamber, which, so this is the Penguin, this is the 75th anniversary Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition. This is a beautiful paperback book. It's got the frayed edges. Oh, I mean, like, I touch a book like this and oh man, I just love to hold a book like this in my hands. And I've only so far read that the Company of Wolves and the story after Wolf Alice. Another there's a band that took their name from that. Both very short stories.
I'm not sure where it comes from before then. It's like, I kind of wish I knew, but there's part of me that just kind of wonders, it's like, okay, well, like it's asking you, maybe it's asking you, like whose company are you keeping?
Yes, I mean, now that I figured that out, I'm like, it's clearly a transcendent phrase, right? Like
Yeah.
it could go back millennia, I feel like. Whether or not it does, I don't know. I would imagine it's something Angela Carter heard and then wrote the story around, but maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe she coined the phrase. I don't know. It is a great title, and again, unfortunately, I feel like where this was. I feel like this was made. I don't want to say the microcosm at the time it was written or at the time the movie came out, but it's definitely the macrocosm now. Like, I mean, there's not a day that goes by in corporate America where you are not in the company of wolves. Each and every one of us, all the time. Like,
Mhm.
it's just there. It's just there. They will consume you. That's what they want to do. They want to consume the world. And I mean, isn't that folk horror? Like,
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
a fable and a moral, just going all the way back to Aesop, who penned The Boy Who Cried Wolf, ironically.
yes, and now it's like Aesop would be like, guys, in 2025, I've been telling you people this. Like, did nobody heed my warning? And then to that, I would just say, Aesop, I don't know if you've, if you're aware of the 24-hour news cycle, but you could literally do something at 6 a.m. and warn people about it, and people will do it again at noon because everybody forgets like after an hour.
It's
And
almost
that's
like that meme I've been seeing recently, where like George Washington is like holding up a copy of the Constitution to Jesus Christ, and he's saying like it's like they never listened at all, and Jesus responds, "Bro, same."
That's crazy.
Oh my God,
Oh, that's
I
so
have not
good.
seen that, but how
That's
appropriate.
so good.
How appropriate. Oh my God. Wow. God damn it. I mean, yeah, to reference another recent episode of ours, I just feel like Alien Earth is an inevitability. Like the five corporations, the fucking douchebag, tempestuous trillionaire, fucking 20-year-old. Anyway.
Is it really Alien Earth that is the inevitability, or is it Idiocracy?
I would pair this, like, yeah, you want to like do like a good pairing. Either like Louise Buñuel's Bill de Jour, or with Kronos maybe. But like Kronos gets top billing.
Interesting. Interesting. You know what I would pair this with? I think from the fairy tale angle, it'd be Suspiria. From the
Mm.
Thatcherite era,
Mm.
it would be Train Spotting. Thank you for the Blu-ray.
There you go. There you go.
Ah,
Good work.
Ray,
okay.
double
Since we're
feature
ending it this
pairing.
way, I'm thinking, John, that's a neat. I love the idea of pairing. So mine is actually going to be a triple feature. Um, I like Kronos because of it's his interpretation of that. Company Wolves and Catherine Breillat's Bluebeard.
I knew you
It
were gonna say that. I
it
fucking knew it.
adds that layering
Nice.
of a dream, and then but it tells that story of Bluebeard in such a stark way that it's a fairy tale, but it's one of the most rough fairy tales that exist out there, and it's fucked up. Um, but yeah, pair it with that, and like yeah, just I maybe that before Company Wolves, but I think you get the nice little transition from like into like a horror movie because it's telling these stories. So yeah.
I've never seen Bluebeard, but you described that to me in such
Oh,
detail at one time at Borders as we were leaving on like a Saturday night that I swear to God, I feel like I've seen the movie. I feel like I've seen it. You described it to me so eloquently and like I just remember being enraptured by your description. So I one day
thank
I do
you.
need to see
Wow.
that movie. Um, But yeah, that's Company of Wolves, and what I'm trying to think. I think it's on Prime.
It's on Prime. I saw it on Prime.
It is well worth your fucking time. Like
Yeah.
I just think
It's a tight 96 minutes.
it's a tight
It's
96 minutes.
enjoyable.
Like you
It's
guys
got good
said, he
performances.
fits so much into it. But also,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, no disrespect to American Werewolf in London. It came first, and it definitely paved the way. And it's just because of I'll just never forget as long as I live seeing that scene of the snout coming out of the guy's mouth. To me, that is the most visceral werewolf transformation that I know of. I think it's, and there's others, like Ray said, there's other, I love the one where and it's like the paw where they cut the head off and it falls in the milk, and when it bobs to the surface, it's the human head. Like, there's just so many great moments, and fuck
Yeah.
Angela Lansbury, right? So there you go.
Oh yeah, Angela Lansbury.
Really, really top-notch film. Great pick, Ray, for Sticks and Stones. And
No problem.
for the Horror Vision, my name is Sean.
I'm John Carpenter.
I'm Ray with the rum.
Hapless teenagers beset by demons in the woods. A strange new drug that turns art into murder. A can't beat a deal on a new house with a horrifying past. A video game that might usher in the apocalypse. From the demented mind of Sean C. Baker, author of a collection of desires, Shadow Play, and Murder Virus, comes Volume 4, collecting Baker's no sleep work along with several never-before published short stories. This 99-cent volume also includes the opening chapter of the author's forthcoming teenage giallo novel, Black Gloves and Broken Hearts, due out later this year.